Carl Walker versus Tim Penny. Tim Penny has provided the comms box with bribes. Jaffa cakes.
He has.
Other delectable treats are available, have been provided. 8 of the 10 have already gone, and we haven't even got to heat 1 yet.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to some Club 100 sprint racing at Whilton Mill. We're at the Zulu layout today, seeing as the international layout isn't fully floodlit, and it's going to be dark by the time we get to the A final. So it's a welcome change for the shorter version of the Whilton Mill circuit, because it's been a long time since racing on this configuration. But we're starting heat 1 with our back start, 11th off the start, and we managed to hold that 11th. But we're seeing if we can get some more going up the hill. Mikey Nichols, 4 wide as we go the hill. He ends up on the grass and thinks better of it. Tries to go around the outside as we go 3, 4 wide just for a moment. And I see an opportunity to go up the inside of Steve Bosley, but it gets very tight there, and have to get out of it.
Looked a bit robust there, but fair play to them. They are all still running and looking okay. So I'm impressed there by that heavyweight field. A good start by Steve Lindley has seized the lead of the race.
So yeah, not really able to get any positions off the start, which is not ideal when you've got a back start race, because you want to be getting forward as fast as possible as we look to make a move around the outside of Boxing Day, which becomes the inside for Inkermans. Either way, it would become the inside for Inkermans, but we actually get 2 more on the exit as Mikey Nichols tries to go up the inside, another driver. They end up both being slow, and I'm able to follow Steve Bosley through and take that a couple of positions, so 3 positions in 2 corners. Yes, thank you very much. As we skip forward a little bit, we got Steve going a little bit wide as we go through Crook, but then not able to get fully alongside up the hill.
This is Steve Bosley and Tim Penny, who's working with him as well. I think the 3 of them working together just a little bit at the moment. And as I say that looked like Tim Penny trying to size up a move there against Steve Bosley. But they do well to try and work together here to get up onto the back of Tom Angier ahead of them.
So yeah, there is a little bit of a gap to the group in front, but I did feel like I had a little bit more pace, and so it was just scouting out a little move, seeing if it's going to be possible going in towards that Inkerman's hairpin, but not able to do it that time around.
A good run here for Penny, because he's right in the slipstream of Steve Bosley as they head up the hill. Doesn't look like that much of a hill from the camera. So trust me, it's just elects to hold for now, and I can understand that, Howard, because there's a bit of a gap up ahead to Tom Angier, and they want to work together to hopefully close themselves back up to that Darren Townsley, Scott Parker affair. Although saying that, down the inside goes Penny on Bosley and takes 7th place.
So this time we do go for the move going through Inkermans, and you can see there Steve was trying to open up that corner to try and get a cut back going through the Zulus, but that was going to be a big ask to try and go side by side through the Zulus. It's not really an overtaking point, it's more of a rhythm section of the circuit, with the possibility of getting a better exit going onto the back straight and into the boot. But we're going to jump forward again, where we've caught up to one of the drivers in front by lap 7. It was a pretty stagnant gap for a little while, but we've managed to catch up. By this point, something's happened to Mikey Nichols, and we've dropped him off the back of this little 3-cart train that's going on at the moment. But coming up the hill, we've got the driver in front positioning his cart defensively, and then in the middle of the circuit. And whilst there is a gap to the inside, it's not really one that I can take advantage of, because it would have kept me really tight to the inside of Christmas Corner, and then would have got no exit and probably been vulnerable to Steve behind. So we'll skip forward a little bit more onto lap 9, where we're going to have another go going up this hill. Have a look up the inside, and this time driver in front takes a bit more of a normal racing line, and I'm able to put it up the inside going into Christmas, and that's us up into P6 with a few laps left, or a lap and a half really, to try and catch up with the train of karts that are fighting over second position at the moment. See if we can take advantage of their squabbling, given that the trailing kart in this group at the moment would see us quite far back. But as they go through the boot section, they're tripping over everybody. Nearly have a look down the inside of the second part of the boot corner, or the toe section, but Scott Parker gets himself stuck to the outside. We're able to follow through, get ourselves up into 5th position, and now going up the hill, it's going to be a case of what do the karts do in front of us. So if they stay tight, we kind of have to, because the karts behind us are very tight indeed, but they all elect to go for a bit more of a normal racing line, maybe trying to get a better exit as Steve Bosley tries to go up the inside of Scott Parker. As we go into Inkerman, have a look, getting a little bit of a tap from behind, but able to keep it out of the kart in front, making sure we don't disrupt their race as well. And coming down the Zulus, taking plenty of curb, trying to keep as much momentum as possible. We get good momentum out of the corner, but they are wise to it, and go defensive, stopping me from being able to get past through the boot, letting themselves drift right a little bit, making sure that you can't really get a good exit through the first right-hand part of the boot, and that would be a P5 finish in Heat 1.
Is it going to be a drag to the line for any of these positions? It is. It's Mike Bodner, Tom Anger, Alexander Lammin and Tim Penny.
So let's move ourselves on to Heat number 2, where we would be on the front row.
Heat number 6 is going to have Kyle Walker on pole. With Tim Penny alongside.
Tim Penny has provided the comms box with bribes. Jaffa cakes.
He has.
Other delectable treats are available, have been provided. 8 of the 10 have already gone. But Kyle Walker, very good form, of course, from Miller Park.
Yes.
When he took not just a C2 win, but an overall victory in that one.
So a bit of a weird start to this one. So initially we were signalled to be going round again, but then the pace car pulled out of the way and we ended up having to form up very quickly for a start. As we managed to get a better start than Kyle this time around. Signal, let's try and run away, because we've got Joe Holmes already putting himself up into 3rd position from 6th on the grid, so an excellent start for him. And as we go through Inkermans, we can see that bright orange suit, not the regular suit for Joe, but it makes him very easy to see on camera, which is useful. Not so useful when you know he's chasing you down and you're currently leading a race. But at this point, we're putting a little bit of a gap to Kyle. I don't think he had the confidence in the rear end of the car this time around, and we didn't feel too bad. It definitely wasn't the best kart we'd had all day by the time it was all said and done, but it was pretty serviceable, and it allowed us to get a little bit of a gap. But at this point, Joe's already made it up into 2nd place coming out of the crook, and his exits out of this next Inkerman's hairpin and out the bottom of the Zulus was just, I couldn't get anywhere close to the exits that he was getting. So as we come down the Zulus, you can see me jumping in the seat here trying to get a better exit, but at this point Joe's already made the move, and we're not going to fight it too hard, being that he's a C1, and it's the most important thing for me here is to stay in front of Kyle, see if we can gain a little bit of that 11-point deficit that we had coming into the weekend back by finishing in front of him in the same race. So at this point, Joe gets a little bit of a better mid-corner speed through the crook, but we're in his tails, in his wheel tracks, and we're gaining up the hill through Christmas pretty even. And then, as I said, coming out of Inkermans and the bottom of Zulu, Joe was just better than I was, and we would start losing touch a little bit to him coming in towards the end of the race. A couple of seconds adrift at the end of the heat, but it'll be a P2 finish, so very important that we manage to stay in front of Kyle, and that's a few points to our favour as we move on to heat number 3, where this was classed as our middle start, 6th on the grid, and the super heavyweights, we've got a super heavyweight in Stuart Kirk on the front row of the grid here, and they were really a lot closer to the pace than maybe you would expect to see at other circuits over the course of the season. And it must be something to do with this Zulu layout, being that there's not that many slow corners, apart from maybe Inkermans and the first part of the boot. The super heavies were doing a really good job at keeping up, and it was making it quite challenging to get past. But as we managed to secure P4 going around the outside of Adam Wright going through Boxing Day, we're tucking in behind Tim Williams, and we're going to try and look to move forward. At this point, I was well aware that Kyle had some very good heat finishes, and it would need to be, seeing as our first heat was a 5th, imperative that we did not fall backwards in this heat. So 4th or better it had to really be. As we latch onto the back of Tim, he signals saying, yep, let's go forward, and I fully agree. If we can stay on Tim's rear bumper, we will indeed follow him through, because we know he's quick. We're battling him for P2 overall in the SP60 on Saturday. So, and being that Tim is a Class 1 driver, as we think about going to the inside, which actually ended up turning out to be a little bit of a defensive move as well on Adam, who was sizing us up. And I ended up going a bit wide going through Inkermans, and it wasn't quite wide enough to allow Adam through, but it was definitely wide enough to give me a little bit of something to think about. As we come back onto the back straight, we can see just how much time that's lost us to Tim and the guys in front. And we'll skip forward a little bit to lap number 3, or the tail end of lap number 3, going on to lap number 4. And we've gained a little bit of that time back, and as we come up the hill, not really close enough to get a good slipstream, and Adam setting up a move this time, and We clock him coming up the inside. We're going to try and hold it round the outside of Christmas, see if we can get a better position, but he's able to hold it round Boxing Day, better position for Inkerman. And then we end up getting squeezed wide a little bit. Wasn't too happy with that at the time, but it's all fair in love and war, and we end up not losing position out of that. So we've gone back to P5. We're going to want to try and move forward from here as we progress forward. We can see Tim Williams going for a move on the kart in front. Adam Wright is able to get alongside, and we dive up the inside as well, getting onto Adam's bumper to make sure that we can make the most benefit out of what we had in front of us, and that gets me back up into P4 overall, as we're now chasing down Stuart Kirk, who is currently leading this race as a super heavyweight driver, which is a phenomenal result for him if he can keep it. But he does have a very quick Tim Williams and a very quick Adam Wright behind him, who will try and dispatch him as quickly as possible. And they would, but I was not able to follow them through this time around, and we'd end up finishing P4. And that was mainly down to having to do quite a lot of defending. Alexander Lamin behind was very racy, and trying to not lose too many positions, it became a defending race rather than an attacking one, which is a shame, but it did mean that we would be starting P8 alongside a P7 Kyle Walker on the finals grid for the A final.
Kyle Walker and Tim Penny as well on the same row. That's quite tasty from a Class 2 perspective, but I think that's still pretty open.
Very open.
Very go on to football.
Yeah.
But just interesting to have the top two in that class.
Very open, but also in a regard where every single point, every single place in every single race counts.
12 minutes on the clock. Yeah, the start marshal gets out of the way a little bit more promptly because these guys want to race. Here we go then, 12 minutes on the clock. Who's going to win? It's a good start from Kurt Holmes from pole position, and Joe Holmes has immediately followed him through there, and up into the top two go the Holmes brothers as they head up the hill for the first time. Adam Wright defending against Anwar Brule Smith, and through they go at Christmas Corner for the first time, and that is over the grass there, and Tim Williams is off as a result of it. It was Natha, wasn't it, on the grass?
So it all got very condensed there behind. I was reasonably forceful coming through the exit of Christmas, trying to make sure that no one could come up the outside, coming the inside for Boxing Day, which is exactly what Adam Nather tried to do on Steve Lindley, I think it was, and that caused a collision which wiped Tim Williams out of the race. So unknown to me, this penalty that's on the board as we cross the start-finish line was for Adam Nather, who, being that he's only done a couple of rounds of this championship recently, I hadn't quite got his number logged in my mind, so I wasn't quite sure who that was for, and it would mean that even if he was able to get past, as you can see the gap behind at the moment is quite big, but it would come down later on in the race. Even if he was to get past, so long as I didn't just disappear backwards, we would finish in front of him at the end of this one. But for now, I was more focused on trying to keep hold of Callan and focus on moving forwards with this group of C1s that was in front. If we could do that, we would be in a good position for potentially a winning class.
Running strongly in fifth place with Tim Penny behind.
We need to note as well that it's not been a good first couple of laps for Carl Walker. He's down to 15th place. Meanwhile, his championship rival in C2, Tim Penny, is up there in 6th.
And speaking to Kyle, the reason he hadn't got off to a particularly good start is he just couldn't be in the right place at the right time. He said he was feeling rather bullied over the first couple of laps, and it can happen like that sometimes, where it just always seems to be that you're losing momentum to the karts around you and you're not able to get into a position to defend. But then this happened.
For Carl Walker.
That's
There
Carl
is
Walker
Carl
out.
Walker. Carl Walker's
yeah.
out. Well, now it definitely will be a drop score for Carl Walker. That will be 25th and last, I think, because we've lost Tim Williams from this race as well. Is that a big moment? The winner from Ella Park out here at Whilton Mill, and this is a great opportunity now for Tim Penny to get a good lead heading into the final round of the season in the C2 stakes.
So Kyle out of this race, having been running in the sort of mid-teens up to that point, but he was involved in a collision which ended up damaging the steering, and that would put him out of the race. As at this point, I was quite content just to be pushing Callan along. As you can see, the gap in front had kind of opened up a little bit, and I wanted to get back with them because obviously at this point, any extra positions that I could potentially get would help me out heading into the final round at Butmore Park. So pushing Callan along, but if there was an opportunity to get past, then we would take it. But for the time being, you can see, even though I was pushing up the hill then, I get a bit of a rubbish exit coming out of the Zulus, and that would mean that I lose a little bit of ground to Callan. So what was in a position to be pushing him forwards has now ended up in a several kart gap to him, and I've got that all to make up again in order to try and catch up with the guys in front. So a lot of work to do from this point on. As we jump forward to lap number 9, or the end of lap number 9 going on to lap 10, we have broken that down, and we're now right in the slipstream of Callan, who's also following closely to Adam Wright in front, who has Joe Holmes defending from him. We're able to slip it up the inside of Callan at this point, and that would be us into the effective lead of Class 2 and 5th overall. Now at this point I was signalling to Callan, let's try and just keep moving forwards. As I said, I felt like I had pretty good pace. This kart particularly, in this reasonably slidey condition, now that it had cooled down, there was a little bit of a sheen to the circuit. Felt like it was on absolute rails, and given the right opportunities, potentially could continue moving forwards. But that would be a big if, seeing as we've got Adam Wright in front, who at the moment is losing ground to Kurt Holmes, who's leading in that battle for P2 overall, with Joe in front, who's not going to make it easy for Adam coming through, and then Anwar in front of that, who is defending from Joe, trying to sort of give himself a bit of a win in his battle versus Joe that they haven't had as much of this year, seeing as Anwar didn't take part in the entire championship, doing duties in other championships here and there, but they're having their one-on-one today. And as you can see, Adam Nather has now caught up with this train, because Anwar has been defending, and whilst it hasn't been slowing us down a lot, as you can see, Kurt isn't too far down the road, it has been slowing us down enough to the point where Adam in clear air has been breaking down that gap. So we move to the outside, seeing if we can get a better run through Christmas Corner, feeling confident we're not going to get attacked from behind at this point. But now we can see they're really defending going into increment hairpin. We try and switch back, but Adam tries to put it up the inside going into the Zulus. We catch that through the corner of our eye, and we are now aware that whatever Adam does, we have to do as well. Otherwise, we're going to leave ourselves completely wide open to an attack from Adam Nather behind. So we've now lost that ability to sort of look for cutbacks and switchbacks on the karts in front. And potentially, with the kart feeling as it was, if I didn't have the pressure from behind, I was thinking about possibly sending a bit of an audacious move round Christmas around the outside, or round increment. As you can see here, we're having to keep it tight. Adam and Callan behind, holding station a bit more, but this time we're having to slow down a bit early. We get a bit of a hit behind from Adam, and as we come out of it, just give him a little signal coming on, think about it. Let's use our race sense here and not try and take each other out. We're in a position to get a good finish here. And again, like I said, I had no knowledge of the penalty that Adam had at this point, so I was in my mind thinking that if he overtook us, that would be the round win in Class 2 for him. So as we come up the hill one more time, we've got Adam keeping it right up against that white line, drifting out a little bit, but not enough to allow a cut up the inside. And this time again, we would try and keep it nice and tight going into increments. If Adam Nather was going to go around the outside, it would be an absolute worldy move, and he doesn't this time, going through the Zulus, a one-line part of the racetrack where, unless the person in front has got it completely wrong, you're not going to be getting overtakes through there. And we got a decent run onto the back straight, keeping it tight, coming through the final two corners or two rights of the toe of boot. And as we come through the final corner, Adam has a little bit of a look, clips the curb, which might give us a run round the outside, but not this time, and we would finish 5th overall. But that would be a first place in class, a win at Whilton Mill, 2 Class 2 wins over the course of this season at Whilton Mill, both on the International Zulu and Zulu layout. So very happy with that, and it was a really good fun race, giving a bit of a fist bump to Adam and Callan there, and speaking to them afterwards. It was it was a really good fun race. Lots of quick thinking needed to be happened based off what was going on in front, and it's a really nice way to finish the day. So moving on to Buckmore Park, it will be pretty much myself and Kyle even on points and a straight up fight for the C2 Championship. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.